Hey, good late Wednesday evening to everybody. It is good to see you. It is good to be seen by you. I, of course, am the one and only Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, coming to you live on a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday evening. And I hope you guys are doing well. I don't, is that, it should be red. My brand color, this is not my brand color. Anyway, how are you, everybody? I hope you're doing extremely well because I am doing okay myself. Anyhow, so you may or may not have heard my co-host, Kyle, had some IRL stuff catch up with him this evening. Hello to you, Chronicles. I can't make out your whole username there. That is a very cool old English font that you used there. Um, yeah, north of the Rockies, up the garden path is not a good module. It is not a good module. But anyway, why is my brand all wrong? Brand color. That. No, that's terrible. There we go. That's what it should be. All right. They Van says one of my new players has stepped up as DM, rolled up new character, did a little RP. It's a blast. Isn't it though? Isn't being the DM so much fun? I'm glad you got to do that. I really am. Finn Fish says, my stream last night kicked ass. Love the part with the dwarf getting turned to stone. Gotta say, my DMing inspired. Your own game you had tonight. Can't wait for the next session. Finn, that is awesome. That is awesome. I'm glad for you, man. Yeah. So about the turning to stone. So I figure if you're grabbing a body and flipping it around and that sort of thing, and you're not taking any special precautions, you're going to wind up gazing at it. So, did Kyle go up the garden path tonight? As I understand it, Kyle ran all over town today, and he is beat, tired. So we gave him the night off. Oh, I see. It's DM Chronicles. Okay, it's DM Chronicles. I gotcha. But anyway, so since you're the forever DM, it's a nice change. Isn't it? Isn't it a nice change of pace getting to play? Just being able to put your feet up and not worry about it. Let me, guys, is my video real choppy? Not like YouTube bandwidth choppy, but like there's something wrong on the PC choppy, like I'm dropping frames. Is anyone getting that? Because it's kind of chugging over here. FMCS Recon, hello. All right, it must just be this PC. I did not reboot this. When I stepped over here to run tonight's game, I realized it was in a state. It was sitting right as it had been. So I don't know what's going on. It's kind of refreshing things there. Audio is fine. That's good. That's good. All right. I'm going to check something out here. Hey, Matt Sherman, good to see you around again. We're going to bring up ye old performance. All right. Let me see here. Do I have anything? You know, I'm going to close this tab. Just going to kill as much stuff as I can that is see, close all those tabs. So I've closed some stuff to free up some stuff. And hopefully performance will smooth out a little bit here in just a second. I mean, I've got a 12 thread 4 gigahertz system here. It's granted it's an older one, but at the same time, it's not done this to me before. So anyway, Joe Kaufman, good to see you. So not sure how long I'll be able to keep things going. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Maybe I'll just switch my camera off. Just do this. Let's see. Stop cam. Just something like that. Bring it back. Still buffering, still kind of chop. Yeah. Well, we'll make do as best we can. But anyway, yeah, Kyle busy tonight, and I didn't really have per se a game plan, and I was kind of tired myself. I was like, oh, hallelujah, Kyle's going to be running something tonight. I don't have to worry about. And here we are. So yeah, just dropping all pretense of proper planned execution tonight, and I'm just I'm just gonna, hang out with you guys for a little bit anyway. Tomorrow night, I think tomorrow night some more Greyhawk is happening. I think we're gonna look at some more Greyhawk, but we'll have to see. I'll let you guys know. One thing I did want to mention, by the way, if you're watching, if you've come by to see this choppy mess, and you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. Please click the bell icon for notifications, because I have a whole lot of stuff that I like to do on this channel. We have a lot of fun here. We do live Let's Plays of games on various days of the week, definitely on Tuesday and Fridays, most of the time on Wednesdays. We interview people. We have great guests on the show. We do deep dives on classic TTRPG products. Essentially, we just have a ton of fun while we're here. So if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. Please click the bell icon for notifications to find out about when the live streams are going to happen and when the interstitial videos are coming. I've got one coming tomorrow. It's a bit of a humdinger. It's not old school related, but it does impact our hobby. So I think it's something important to talk about. So I will be putting out a video tomorrow. See, you have a little bit of advanced notice, but if you forget, if you forget your experience here tonight, well, you'll get a notification tomorrow when the video drops. So hopefully you'll tune in. But anyhow, so that's coming tomorrow. Greyhawk tomorrow night, and Friday night. I know that the Game Master will be here because that's me. And Friday night, we're going to continue our live play of Classic Gamma World as we run through the mini module Albuquerque Spaceport, which I hope you guys will enjoy watching with me. And by the way, the same rule applies as to the Tuesday night AD&D game. If you guys are watching and you're wondering why certain things are going on and why certain things are done a specific way, feel free to ask. Just ask in the chat, and I will do my level best to answer your question. If I don't, one of the players might. And if neither I or the players do, somebody in the audience might, Because why? Because I have the smartest and best looking audience of all the tabletop RPG 5 night a week live stream shows on YouTube. Classic tabletop RPG. So I hope that you will tune in for that. Now I'm gonna try something here, guys. I'm gonna try something here. Um, you guys are gonna lose my audio and video for just a few seconds. I'm gonna see if I can get the audio and video resynced. So please bear with me. I'm gonna stop cam. You're gonna see my on-screen logo there. There it is. And I shall be right back. Okay, there's my audio, and let's start the cam back. All right, how am I doing now? Nope, it's even worse. It's definitely not better. Did the Gamma World players make a wrong turn in Albuquerque? So far, it has been a right turn in Albuquerque. It has been absolutely a right turn, which is good for them. Grape nuts are neither grape nor nuts. Thank you, 1970s stand-up comic. This just in, the Eiffel Tower is not really made of Eiffel, bazinga. But seriously, folks, how are you? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, north of the Rockies. It's a classic for a reason. I can't repeat it on the air, but speaking of 70s comics, just YouTube just decided to recommend me some Richard Pryor. And I watched some clips from Richard Pryor live on the Sunset Strip. And man, you forget how funny a dude is. You forget how funny a dude is. Talked about when they were, when he and Gene Wilder were filming Stir Crazy, and they actually shot parts of it at a prison in Arizona. And he said the first day, he was like, he was shocked. He was appalled at all of the black people that were in prison. He was like, man, these guys should be warriors. These handsome young men, they're trapped in here. And after the first week, he was like, thank God we have prisons. And that's about it. That's about all of his bit from that I can repeat. But yeah, it was good stuff. It was good stuff. You got it. Really, I'm telling you guys, by and large, you got to go back to the stand-up comedy in the 80s and the 70s and some of the comedy albums in the 60s for really your best stuff. How do I? That's, you know what? That's a good question. And this comes up every now and again. Finfish, I'm going to put this up there. How do I feel about second edition AD&D as a system? I'm not crazy about it mechanically. Semiotically, I don't like it. I try to be as fluent in High Gygaxian as I possibly can be. I like to converse in the rather baroque forms of speech that Gary favored in the language and approach he took to writing the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Monster Manual. Tonally, it just leaves me absolutely, I don't know, 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 I don't know just flat. And that ties in to the second point regarding semiotics of it. Um, I don't. TSR, as soon as Gary was gone, TSR very quickly caved in to the moral majority. Um, there is a there is a standards and practices document that was put together by TSR stating how writers would do things for Dungeons and Dragons at TSR. Um, I remember the TSR second edition is coming, and this is what's happening. You're going to remove half orcs, retire your half orcs players. You're going to remove Assassin's Guild, tell your players they were overthrown. On the writer's side, hello 33K7, good to see you. On the writer's side and artist's side, they were very heavily censored. No discussion of alcohol, no discussion of drinking, no discussion of drug intake, topics such as slavery, positive mention of the forces of evil. They turned it from the heavy metals vibe going all the way back to 74, all the way up to 89. Well, I think the battleization began well before that. I think that's a good term to use. Now, Demian 247. I'm going to say one thing. I briefly I talked to Jim a little bit about his work editing 2E. And he said, we tried to leave as much good stuff in there as possible, but the pressure came from above. Yeah, exactly. And then they released Dark Sun. All the things I just mentioned, and then they released Dark Sun. Which had cannibal halflings and slavery and racism, and it was horrible, 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 horrible. I mean, tonally. But in the overall, the rules themselves cater to a specific tone. See, people don't understand this. People don't understand this. When I say 1E, I only prefer 1E. People say, well, yeah, I do too, but I just like the rules clean up in 2E. So, I play 2E, but with a 1E vibe. That's not precisely compatible. Let me give you kind of a strange analogy for this. There's a YouTuber I watch, Techmoan, and he's based in the UK. And his thing these days, he kind of started off as a tech YouTuber. That is a vintage tech YouTuber. Like some of his very earliest videos were about cleaning up vintage tech, and he would interact sometimes with vintage tech YouTubers. But he has moved now into strange audio and video formats is his niche, and it works really good for him. He's got like I think over 1 million subscribers now. Good for him. And sometimes he buys gear from Japan and the United States. And what that means is 110 volt current. Now, you would think that a current converter, you could just plug it into that and plug it into the wall, and you're good to go. It's not going to be the same. It requires very fine-tuned adjustment to make records played on, say, a turntable from Japan, or cassettes played on a cassette player from America. It takes a very, very, very attentive amount of fine tuning to make that work. It's not just whacking into the converter and hey, everything's good to go. And what that means in terms of D&D is you're talking about you're talking about voltage conversion. It's not going to work. The design language of 2E informs how certain things are going to work. If you're playing 2E raw, my half orcs and my assassins guild, gone. Demons, devils are now base 2 and base 2 and tannery, you know. So much stuff that is worked into the fabric of first edition, and it's in the rules. People think that the rules are agnostic from the vibe of a system, and they are absolutely not. They are not. Well, that lack of agnosticism means that if you pull in the adventures and the modules and, all that sort of thing, it's still going to feel off. And where that leaves us is it is kind of in a situation where you say, well, you can do this and 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 this all from 1E in 2E, and then it's better. And it's like saying, well, I'll run 5E for you, but I'm going to flip the armor classes, and I'm going to have the AD&D saving throws, and I'm going to have the AD&D XP tables and this and this and this and this. Why not just play first edition AD&D? Now, I've had some people tell me straight up, I don't like the way AD&D was written. Gary is an old gas bag, and I don't like wading through the rules trying to find stuff, but the adventures are fun, et cetera, et cetera. And that's fine. You're absolutely entitled to your opinion. I don't dispute that you're entitled to your opinion. My opinion is that's what makes AD&D wonderful, is Gygaxian, the Baroque approach to how the rules work, the way the rules are kind of intertwined, It's a helicopter built by one man, not a jet plane built by 50. You know what they say a helicopter is? It's a collection of disassociated parts flying through the air in the same direction. So I feel like I feel like you cannot divorce the coolness of AD&D from its mechanics. You cannot divorce the mechanics of AD&D from its coolness. Now, if you want to pick and choose a few things out of 2E and mix them in with your AD&D game, maybe you're one of those weirdos that says priests and wizards instead of clerics and magic users, and rogues instead of thieves. Maybe that's you. And you want to pull bits like that into AD&D. I mean, that's absolutely your purview. I'm not going to say you can't run this like this, you can't run this like the other. I'm just that is what I feel about as far as as far as 2E goes. And I hope that answers that question from Damien. So Joe Kaufman, the question looking for my opinion. You're trying to get your 5e friends into 1e, you start prepping B2, but in second guessing yourself, do I think a short tournament game style game would be better? No. Just play B2. Um I would literally just play Keep on the Borderlands. Just play it like it's written. A quote unquote short tournament style game is that journey into Area A, the Kobold's lair, or across the river to the south to cope with the bandits, or the spiders, or the lizard man, or north to deal with the mad hermit. So, um, I mean, there is enough. I mean, you can tweak it. You can tweak Keep on the Borderlands, and maybe it's a case of the Castellan's favorite necklace was stolen, and he suspects a friendly traveling sage who had no time to stay cast locate object and indicated that it was somewhere in the caves of chaos, probably in the kobold lair. There you go. The party has a set mission. The party has a set mission. Pastel Fox, from what I'm hearing about 6E, um, yeah, it's starting to strike me, just based on reports I've heard from reviewers and so forth, as the no fun zone. Now, some of it, like, they are dead set against, like, no, there will not be a peasant railgun. The peasant railgun was stupid. The peasant railgun is a spherical cow argument thought up by gamers drunk on wine coolers and Zima. But I am going to say this, because this came up. I was talking about sixth ed is the new fourth ed according to your DM. Exit. Excellent. Excellent. Well said. Um, but yeah, I lost my train of thought. The rot really did begin to set in late first edition. When Gary was gone, they bloated that system up. And I'm going to alpha nerd a little bit here. I talked to Gary and I asked him about Manual of the Plains, uh, Oriental Adventures. We'll come back to that in just a second. Wilderness Survival Guide, Dungeoneer Survival Guide. And he said those are all effectively second edition books. They're not what I had in mind for 1E. They add a lot of stuff that I don't think added well to 1E. So I think the rot set in. So when people, when I say, hey, AD&D is not a game of skills and so on, and people are like, oh, it most certainly is, because these are 1E AD&D books from the guy who designed it. From the guy who designed it. It being D&D and AD&D. They most certainly are not first edition AD&D books. So my cutoff point is an Unearthed Arcana. Now, I mentioned Oriental Adventures in there, but it's got a big asterisk next to it. Gary very much loved Asian themes. AD&D, if you pay attention, is littered with Asian themes. I can think of at least 4 things in the monster manual, possibly more if I pay a little bit more attention. Well, Joe, if you treat the raid on the Kobold lair just as a, hey, we're going to do this as a one-off, because it absolutely can be completed in a session, maybe two. You've kind of got your tournament there. But Gary very much wanted Asian themes in D&D, and he wanted an Asian-ish kind of source book that dealt with the far west in Greyhawk eventually someday. And he cast about looking for someone to write it, and it's my understanding, I could be wrong about this, but it's my understanding that Francois Freudeval was approached to write it. And it sat for the longest time. And he said, yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working steadily away. And I don't remember if it, this is one of those things what we'll have to ask Paul Stormberg the next time he's back. But either Gary or Jim visited him in France and asked him how much he had done, and he had nothing. And the book had been heavily advertised. So Jim was given the task, you have this many weeks, write an Asian themed book. And because Jim was a writing machine, he did. Knocked it out. Now, some people think that Gary grabbed the glory and said, put my name on the cover of Unearthed Arcana. He did not. He said, he said to me, I don't know why my name was put on that book. I certainly didn't tell them to. I didn't tell them to take Jim's name off of it. I think they saw how good Unearthed Arcana had sold and said, well, put it on Oriental Adventures. I know he's given credits, 33K7. I'm not sure how much he got paid for it. Oh, that's interesting, Pastel Fox. But Gary didn't write Oriental Adventures. Jim did. I don't know how much of the little bit Francois Freudeval had done made it in there. So it's not really a Gary book. But I'll say this. The truly transitional book that went from, it said for first/second edition AD&D, and it was the only book that did, that sat on that balance, was Greyhawk Adventures. And Jim and Rob Kuntz wrote adventures in that. I consider that more, because of that, more of a first edition AD&D book than Dungeoneer Survival Guide, Wilderness Survival Guide, Manual of the Plains, or Oriental Adventures. So, again, I think they took the hard rock, heavy rock vibe, which, by the way, Gary was a fan of like classical jazz music, like big band jazz, stuff like that. So I don't think I don't think he ever sat with the whole, oh, it's like Led Zeppelin or it's like Black Sabbath. I don't think that was ever his thing. But in 1989, when you went from second edition, or from first edition to second edition, I think ironically, in 1990 was when grunge started picking up. but you went from the gritty hard rock heavy metal era of D&D to the hair metal and glam rock era of D&D. And I apologize if you if you're a second edition fan and you're rapidly unsubscribing from me on YouTube, I apologize. I'm sorry. It's not a great analogy, but I mean, hey, look at Parkinson's and Caldwell's art. Hey, women, big Stevie Nicks hair on all of the art. 1989, the year photosynthesis became a thing. Yes, that was right after the Earth cooled. Robert Phillips says, "Why did it take so long for Temple of Elemental Evil to come out after a Village of Hamlet?" Oh, there's a story there. Do you want the short answer or do you want a long answer? By the way, hello Savo, and your latest Feifel is wonderful. Thank you all. Everybody needs to follow Savo over on Twitter. Savo does these great comics. Feifel the elf. Savo, if you won't come on the show, ask Feifel if she'll appear on the show. Long and rambling. Gonzalo says long and rambling. Well, nobody else said anything, so here's the long and rambling. Okay. When Gary started introducing modules for that specifically dipped deeply into the world of Greyhawk, he wanted to module code them WG. World of Greyhawk. Easily identifiable. WG1 was the village of Hamlet. WG2 was slated to be the Temple of Elemental Evil. I believe it may have been 2 and 3 were going to be Temple of Elemental Evil, but WG4 was going to be the Lost Caverns of Sojkanth. He was going to take his Tournament Sojkanth module and rework it. And then WG5 was, of course, Forgotten Temple of Tharizdun. WG6 was Isle of the Ape. And WG7 was going to be, or wait, I got that backwards. WG6, Mordenkainen's Fantastic Adventure. WG7, Isle of the Ape. And other modules in the World of Greyhawk setting were to follow. So, the Blooms basically voluntold Gary that he was going to go to California and create Dungeons and Dragons Entertainment. Gary wanted D&D on everyone's lips. You go to California, you can work on it there. And so away to California he went. Now, what this meant was that while he was getting a D&D cartoon going, while he was working deals for D&D merch, working on getting a D&D film script going, he had to sideline his RPG writing. He still did stuff. He still got From the Sorcerer's Scroll articles for the RPGA newsletter, Polyhedron, and so on. So he still worked on those as he could, but he had other stuff going on in California. Not all of it positive either. So that's what he was doing. And T1, because he didn't know if he could launch his grand family of modules, his grand series of modules. T for temple. So he wrote that, published it, got a good portion of it done, or got a good portion of Temple of Elemental Evil done, handed it off to Frank Menzer. So Frank did some cleaning up and editing and so on and etc. The same happened with Queen of the Demon Web Pits. He was stuck. The Against the Giant series was to have ended with the party fighting the Elder Elemental God rather than Loth. Remember, Loth and all of her worshippers in Airly Sinlu are patsies. They are being set up by House Tormtor and a Clavdra. They worship the Elder Elemental God, a Cthulhu-like being. That's because early on, Gary was going to tie the two together, 33K7. So Gary didn't have time to finish the final module. Dave Sutherland had the famous bathroom mat or shower curtain, depending on who you ask, pattern that he kind of doodled into a map, bounced some ideas off of Gary. Gary knew the series had to get finished and said, go, do it. It looks wonderful. Do it. So what happened was T1 and then T1 to 4, rather than being WG1 and so on, got relegated to their own module codes. WG4, they wanted a fourth module in the S series, so they dropped WG4 at the end, and it became S4. Now, why they didn't make Forgotten Temple Thara's done like FT1 and Mordenkainen's Fantastic Adventure, MA1, and so on and etc., I don't know. But they kind of started to correct things. It's sort of like how many of you guys are familiar with the unified service numbering scheme for military aircraft? The Marines have aircraft, the Army has aircraft, but the Marines have fixed wing aircraft, that is planes that, well, Harrier and F-35 VTOL notwithstanding, planes that, take off, they go down a runway, exhaust comes out the back, they go forward. The Navy has them, and the Air Force has them. Now, if you know about Second World War, you had the P-38, the P-47, the P-51. Well, the P, that stood for pursuit. And they didn't really have ground attack designations or anything like that. But then they said, well, let's add F for fighter. Well, they'd used up a lot of numbers on experimental aircraft. So things got really kind of screwy up until the early 1960s. Is now you had numbers skipped, you had numbers retroactively fitted to things. And by the mid to late 1960s, you had the F-100, you had the F-101, the F-102, the Delta Dart, F-103 was skipped, F-104 Starfighter, F-105 Thunder Chief, F-106 Delta Dagger, F-107 was experimental, F-108 Rapier, F-109, F-110. F-111 was actually a short-range strategic bomber. Um, but finally, they slammed on the brakes and said, enough, enough. This new swing wing fighter plane the Navy wants is not going to be the F-115, because they'd already started renaming things with the F-3H Demon. The F-3H gave way to the F-4 Phantom, the F-5 Tiger. There was no F-6 or F-7, but there was an F-8, the Crusader. No F-9 or F-10 or F-11 or 12, certainly not a 13, but the F-14 Tomcat, the F-15 Eagle, the F-16 Fighting Falcon. YF-17 was what the F-18 was originally going to be designated, but then they designated it F-18. The point behind all of this bonkers language, me talking about stuff that has to do with fighter airplanes, is it kind of went the same way with TSR. They had all the screwy nomenclature, and then they finally clarified it, starting with WG5. So there we go. Damien asks, is it true that one of the in one of the adventures, Mordenkainen had a portal to a TV studio on Earth? I can't recall. That sounds like something that may have been in EX1 or EX2. EX1 is Land Beyond the Magic Mirror, and EX2 is Dungeon Land. So it may have been in one of those two. I do know that you can find in one of those modules a room that belongs to Murrayland, who was based on Don K. And in his room, you can find a VCR. Have I ever run the original B3? No, but I have seen the original B3, not a physical copy, mind you. Very few people have. I never thought there was anything wrong with it. A lot of people think that the Decapus was the chief reason that they got rid of Orange B3. It wasn't. It wasn't. The Ubos are three-headed giant creatures. And when Errol Otis drew the art for the Ubos, he apparently drew rather unflattering caricatures of the Bloom brothers as the heads of one of the Ubos. Gary is one of them, but he didn't seem to mind. But the Bloom brothers, they put their foot down. The above board story is that, you know, the Decapus is the image of the Decapus is that the art for it, when you see a Decapus at range, it's kind of like a Venus flytrap, and it generates an illusion of a young woman bound at the wrist, hanging from a tree, being menaced by evil dwarves with daggers. The art, you know what? Let's look at this, because I will absolutely not get demonetized. But just in case you're worried, I might. If you want to super chat me, anyone, I will gladly accept it. So let's see. So let's see. Yeah, that's a little blurry, but it's pretty good. It is. Yeah, that took forever to load. This PC is not happy right now. Gonzalo, if you have an original B3, you have a gold mine there, my friend. Especially considering literally double-digit numbers of it made it out. So I don't think this is particularly horrid. I don't feel that is, you know, grossly terrible. It's certainly no worse than the cover of the Dungeon Master's Guide, which sat front facing out in toy stores and hobby stores for well over a decade. So there it is. The Illusion of the Decapus. Um, but the official story is this drawing caused them to freak out. When it was most assuredly not. Let me find the other. See if I can find these things. I may have to pull up a PDF if I can't. I don't. By the way, this is something I will gladly share the Orange B3 with you guys if you don't have a copy. It will never be repeated. It will never be repeated. All right, here we go. Repeated, reprinted. All right, let's add this. Hey, thank you, Gonzalo. I really appreciate that. I will get myself a pie for Thanksgiving. I do appreciate that. So there you go. You've got some TSR staff on the three-headed giants there. That is Gary on the far left, or no, wait, that's yeah, that's that. I believe that's Brian Bloom on the far left in the back. But this got the Orange B3 pulled. There's a little bit. Now I'm gonna be honest, and I mean this is one of those things that may merit a deep dive. We've been going for an hour tonight. If I thought of, hey, let's deep dive Palace of the Silver Princess, I would have. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow night. I think you know what? Let's do that tomorrow night. Let's deep dive Orange Palace of the Silver Princess. But here's the thing: people get caught up in the rarity of it and the mystery of, ooh, what happened? You know what? Why? Oh, what? Why was it? Why was it taken out of print? Guys, it's not a good module. I wouldn't go so far as to say as it's bad as ST1 Up the Garden Path. It's not a it's just it's not a good adventure. It's got salvageable parts in it. As I always say, hey, at least it's good for a map, right? At least it's good for a map. It's got a pretty decent map. And here, this is the setup for the module. Years ago, the valley was green and animals ran free through golden fields of grain. The Princess Argenta ruled over this peaceful land, and the people were secure and happy. Then one day, a warrior riding a red dragon appeared in the skies over the princess's castle, and almost overnight, the tiny kingdom fell into ruin. Now only ruins and rumors remain, and what happened there are and what legends there are tell of a fabulous ruby still buried somewhere within the palace of the Silver Princess. Um, I haven't looked at this in a minute, but I don't think there's a. Yeah, there's no dragon in this module. It's just it's just a strange module. Is it as bad as N2? No, I won't say it's as bad as N2 because bless her heart. Bless her heart. Gene Wells wrote this module. Um, no, I understand, Savo. I understand. Um, hey, there's a Feifel idea for you. Decapus has got her and she's kicking their teeth in because how much we know how much Feifel likes gnomes. Um, N2, Gene Wells did her best with this module. She created a good fairy tale kind of module. The people, because it was more than one, involved with N2, um, there's literally a point at which someone who was working on it stopped mid paragraph. The next person who started working on the module at some point far in the future from then, relatively speaking, started writing the paragraph back from that point without reading what was previously written in the paragraph. So things literally change in the middle. Who wins, flail snail or decapus? Uh, let's see. The decapus. I have this module downloaded now. I just wish there was a better scan of it because all the scans are pretty rough. This is slapped it on the flatbed and shared it on the TTRPG Usenet group. Although Wizards this may have originally come from Wizards of the Coast. So the Decapus, let's see. Yeah, there's no dragon here. So let's see. All right, so Decapus, 3 hit dice, 18 hit points, number of attacks 9, 3 on any target, damage 1 to 6 each, moves 12. All right, so let's see. Now I got to open up let's see. I don't know if I have a Fiend Folio in here. I don't have a copy of the Fiend Folio. Unless it's over here. No, look at that. All right, let me look this up. You guys have got me looking for stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's a valid point. They then, let's see. All right, so let's look at the original flail snail. Armor class 4, move 3, hit dice 4 to 6. So on average, it's going to have more hit points. Number of attacks, 1 per tentacle, damage per attack, 1 to 8 per tentacle. So it's got 4 to 6 tentacles doing 1 to 8. The Decapus has 9 doing 1 to 6. The Decapus can definitely outmaneuver this thing. The Decapus is armor class 5. The flail snail is armor class 4. This is almost one of those things that would come down to initiative. Hello, Bob Jester. Good to see you. Hello, Shinjara. So it's going to come down to initiative. The Decapus illusory power is probably not going to work on the flail snail. Flail snail's intelligence is low. Well, okay, it might. It actually might. I thought the flail snail was animal or non, or semi at best. But low intelligence actually implies that its illusory capability might be. So let's check that out. Um, you know what? Here I can just. All right, so let's see. The Decapus might get this. This clever monster has the innate ability to use both ventriloquism and illusions to appear as a helpless, beautiful woman, usually hanging from the ceiling and being taunted by 9 ugly men. In its true form, it has 10 long tentacles extending from various parts of its body. These tentacles have many 3-inch diameter suction cups, which it uses to grab its victim as well as climb walls and ceilings. It only uses 9 of its tentacles to fight and can use no more than 3 on a single opponent. The 10th is used to suspend itself from the ceiling. On the floor, it's practically helpless, only being able to move short distances in a slow and uncoordinated fashion. Due to its superior hearing, has a chance to detect any party within 120 feet, 1 to 4 on a d6. This allows it to use illusions to disguise itself. These illusions let it gain surprise on attackers. It can disguise itself as other creatures or as part of a wall, but its favorite illusion is that of the helpless woman. So, if it disguises itself as a wall, waits for the flail snail, it will get surprise and can wail on it for 3 to 18 in its surprise segments. It's striking armor class 4. It is striking armor class 4. We're just hanging out and BSing Wheeling Dragon, and it's good to see you. So we have a 3-hit die monster striking at armor class 4. Somebody asked me who would win, a flail snail or a Decapus from B3 Palace of the Silver Princess. And so we're looking at that now. All right, so in its surprise round, it strikes 3 times. Because remember, only 3 on a single opponent. So armor class 4, it's going to need a 12. It's going to need a 12, so it's got. Let's do this. All right, so it hits once for just 1 point of damage. Okay, the flail snail Well, we'll see how surprised the flail snail was. Total surprise. So it's actually going to get another couple of segments of attack. That's a pair of hits. So the flail snail, 4 to 6 hit dice. We'll say it's 5 hit dice. Average, that's 20. Ouch. Okay, so now it's taken 9. The flail snail has taken half of its hit points in damage. All right, so it's a new round. Flail snail's initiative. 4. Decapus initiative. 2. All right, flail snail goes first. Flail snail has 5 attacks, attacks as a 4 hit die creature versus armor class 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And remember, these do a d8 damage each. I have 1, 2, 3. Well, all of them are possible. Let's look at the Dungeon Master's Guide. Where did it go? The lowest was 11. This is a 4 hit die creature. All of them hit. The Decapus, we said, was a 3 hit die monster. Giving it average, that's going to be 12. The Decapus almost certainly is about to die. $26 points of damage. The flail snail, now being right PO'd, smashes the Decapus to jelly. There's your answer. And that's who would win in a flail snail versus a Decapus combat. And the poor Decapus never really had a chance, even though it got total surprise. I mean, you know what? I said it got 3 segments of surprise, and I only did 2 rounds of attacks. Let's see if its last bunch of attacks. Yeah, it would have missed with its last bunch of attacks. So it wouldn't have helped it at all. So, yeah, flail snail for the win. Got conked about a bit, but flail snail carried the day. And that's the answer to your question. Now to find a way to tame a flail snail. I don't think the flail snail, you know what? Now I got to look. Size. Well, it says it's large. I don't, you know what? I have a book. Let's find out how large. All right, so here we go. 8 feet high at the crown of its shell. I mean, it's neutral. I suppose if you kept it fed, you could use it for a mount. Yeah, that is and he's actually a fairly tough customer. Yeah, Volcano God, you sent me a video of that. That's wonderful. Some eccentric wizard riding this guy around. You know, 8 feet in diameter, though, that's huge. That's that's friggin' huge. That's okay, Damien. That's okay. You just checked you do not have a copy of B3, you have the PDF. Yeah, I mean, I I know people who say they have a copy of B3. I've seen pictures of people's true rare collections. I have seen pictures of people, standing next to their like shelf full of acrylic boxes, all with wood grain sets in them. They posted pictures of themselves with their collections. So yeah. Jason Thomas in the house. The White Dragon, Eric's Bane, was banished to the Dimension of Ice. That's why it isn't in the module. But it's a red dragon in the module, if we're still talking about Palace of the Silver Princess. But yeah, it's an odd creature. 8 feet diameter, slithers along at 30 feet. You better just hope that the bad guys don't have salt. Oh, did they retcon the dragon when they did the green the green cover of it? I'm 99.99% sure. Okay. And it doesn't appear in it. So it's like, why bother? It's like, hey, if it's not going to appear in the module, you might as well say it's Tiamat. Tiamat being ridden by Orcus dropped this ruby here, but she's not here anymore, so don't worry about it. A flail snail versus a platoon of orcs. How big is a platoon to you? How big is a platoon to you? I'm going to take my maxed out flail snail, 48 hit points. Snail maxing. So 48 hit points, platoon of orcs with max hit points, a platoon, let's say that's 12, so that's 80, that's 96. Oh, 40. I think the orcs are going to win that. I think the orcs are going to win that. Because if it's attacking everything it can in front of it, and the orc, well, I don't know. I don't know. In a dungeon where the hallway's 3 feet across and the orcs could be 3 abreast, you could at most arrange them. So you've got sword or axe wielding orcs in the front rank, spear or other, halberd or whatever in the second rank, and then, the other ranks arranged like that going back. The flail snail is going to be attacking 6 times. It's going to get 2 attacks on every orc. Each attack's going to do 1 to 8. The orcs are armor class 6 or 7. I think you're going to have a whole bunch of dead orcs before you're going to have a dead flail snail. That is in a standard 10-foot wide dungeon hall. Now, the orcs being evil might actually, there might be some in the back lobbing oil, flasks of oil, but there's a more than, well, no, it's large. So I would say like a 60-40 chance, because they're lobbing into close melee, of hitting one of their fellows. Oh, unquestionably. Open terrain, orcs win. Close quarters, it's going to be rough for the orcs, but they'll eventually win. You think sheer weight of numbers, 40, 40 at 3 deep, so that's 10 ranks and one guy in the back cheering them on. And flail snails are sticky. That's correct, Savo. Flail snails are for the discerning Titan or storm giant who absolutely love escargot. So, they have that special fork. Just dig them right out of there. Yeah, open terrain, the orcs win because they can just stand. I mean, there's a percentage of them that are going to be armed with bows. That is long bows, short bows, not bows like high end theater speakers. They're going to be armed with the Bose acoustic wave. The French orcs would eat the flail snail, yeah. I am reminded of one of the particularly more disgusting chapters of Uzumaki. If you don't know what Uzumaki is, it's a Japanese horror manga. There have been a few different multimedia attempts at it. One live action movie in Japan, one animated movie that came out on Netflix that started off really strong, and then apparently the fourth episode or second, third, and fourth episodes were unwatchably bad in terms of animation quality. But I'm not going to sit here for an hour and explain Uzumaki to you guys, but it rains constantly in one of the chapters, because it's a series of related short horror stories. But in one of the chapters, it rains constantly, and a few people around this cursed village in Japan slowly start transforming into snails, like giant snails with like people faces, but their eyes are still up on eye stalks. It's pretty nasty. And by this point in the manga, the curse has gotten so bad that like no one can deliver food to the town. There's like this weird sort of time dilation thing. People try to leave the town, but they find that like all the roads just kind of corkscrew back around and lead them back to the town. And people are going insane. It's very Lovecraftian. And some people that need food, they find the people who have transmogrified into snails and cook them. The fail snail, yeah. Every one of the tentacles that hits you, it doesn't it doesn't do any damage. It just makes you miss your roll. And behind it is a regular flail snail. But yes, I would say that the 40 orcs out of doors, escargot. That's it. Has anyone got any other questions about any other weird monsters? I'm not doing the flump, don't ask. So yeah, tomorrow, I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna look at B3 Orange or if we're gonna look at more Greyhawk. Thought Eater, that's kind of a tough one, because if you're not using psionics, what does it really do? Yeah, so many of the monsters in Fiend Folio are they're just useless. They're just useless. Yeah, Thought Eater, number of attacks 0, damage per attack nil. So this is here's the Thought Eater. They are dwellers in the ether. Their senses, however, extend into the physical plane, and any psionic or psionic-related energy use in either area will attract their attention. Range of ability or magic equals attraction range. The thought eater appears to be something like a sickly, gray, skeletal bodied, enormous headed platypus to, to those who are able to observe it. Its webbed paws allow it to swim through the ether. It can be attacked only by ethereal creatures. Its only desire is to feed on the mental energy of prey it is attracted to. And if it comes within 6 inches of any creature in the ethereal or physical planes, it will be able to absorb any psionic or spell energy they attempt to use at a range of 1 inch. The thought eater is able to begin feeding on the actual thoughts of even non-psionic creatures. Each thought eater is able to consume 101 to 200 psionic energy points before becoming sated. Convert magical energy to psionic points on a basis of 5 points per spell level, and actual thought consumption converts to 1 intelligent point, equaling 10 psionic energy points. Note that if it feeds on thoughts, the creature loses intelligence permanently. At intelligence 0, the creature is dead. 1 equals mindlessness, 2 idiocy, 3 imbecility, and at an intelligence of 4, it is equivalent to a low-grade moron. Mental defenses such as mind blank and magical devices against psionic and psionic-related powers thwart attacks of these horrid things. So they are bad news. But it would somehow, for some reason, the flail snail would have to be on the ethereal plane. They do have 3 hit dice. That's an average of 12 hit points. They're armor class 9. I've got a feeling the flail snail is going to recognize it for the threat it is and beat it to death. We have never done a deep dive into Forest Oracle 33K7. We have not. Yes, Uzumaki would make a great Call of Cthulhu adventure. Awesome creature. What am I talking about? They suck. I mean, yeah, I suppose if you're, if your character becomes ethereal and starts casting spells. Why don't I use critical hits? I leave it up to Merp. Because, put this here. First edition AD&D is very much it's a fast-paced game. Crits slow the game down. They just do. I just find they slow the game down. So, yeah, I don't. Merp, Rollmaster, other games that use crits, I'm fine. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay uses a crit system. It's awesome. Don't like it for AD&D. When I'm playing AD&D, I want a character to plow through a dozen kobolds with a single roll of the dice. Yeah, exactly, David. It wasn't balanced for crit. And I just, double damage. Ooh, chance to damage armor. It becomes too cumbersome, in my opinion. For AD&D first edition, gloves are off for anything else. But the AD&D is not built around the idea of constantly doing crits. I mean, here's a perfect example. My Monday night game, when it's full, 11 players. If there's a grand melee and creatures are coming in from all sides swinging, every other round, it's even if it's only on a 20, every other round, one of the characters could take an insta-kill crit. That's a natural 20. Nat 20. That's crit. Sorry. And I just, now the characters are going to be giving them out too, but yeah, I don't, it don't sit with me. But there are games where there's a mechanic for it, and the game was built around the assumptions of those mechanics. On splash damage, you mean from like when acid, holy water, or flaming oil or poison are thrown? I mean, yeah, we have splash damage rules. I have a little widget on my Discord server that I calculate that with because it is a little bit like crits because you kind of got with a widget. It's like, okay, roll a what is it? A D8 for direction, and then a D6 for range, and you can potentially like miss someone with a pot of flaming oil and still hit them for up to 3 points of damage. And if they're particularly flammable, that may be all you need. Grappling rules for 1E, not as bad as people complain, but they're still a little onerous. I'll use them though. I've kind of got it down to a little bit of a science. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm going to talk to Alan Hammock about that one day and just say, Alan, grappling rules. What the hell? Yeah, I mean, it really just comes down to compared percentile dice rolls with a whole bunch of conditional modifiers. Some of those modifiers never change for your character. Your character's armor class, your character's armor type, your character's weight, your character's height, any bonuses for strength. You can configure all of those and then just write them on your character sheet. And then I, as a dungeon master, need to have something equally to hand so we can just roll percentile dice and that's, it's done quickly. And the same, the same for pummeling. Just, you can have everything necessary compiled in one place, or you can just do a normal 2-hit roll and 1 to 3 plus strength. You're just punching fisticuffs. Oh, hacking through crowd, blow through damage? No. Because, and again, by and large, hit points are kind of a hazy thing. Was your 8 points a thrust straight through your opponent's heart? Was it 16 different small cuts? Was it maybe 2 big ones? AD&D is a very abstracted system. So yeah, blow through damage, I don't. Now I will tell you a system that does do blow through damage that's actually quite neat. It's the Silhouette system from DreamPod 9, which I don't think they ever really. They had a fantasy horror game called Tribe 8 that was set in a post-apocalyptic Earth. There had been a magic apocalypse on Earth. Like everything that you know, or understand has been warped, and it's like it's like the Dreamlands almost from Lovecraft. We'll see around 33K7. I'm actually not far behind you on the whole sleep front. But blow through damage. And there's also Jovian Chronicles and Heavy Gear that use the Silhouette system. And blow through damage in Heavy Gear, for example, you have a main battle tank firing a big fuck off 140 millimeter cannon, and then you got a couple of scout gears, and a gear is basically like a tall power armor suit. One thing that they make perfectly clear with Heavy Gear is that gears don't lord over all. They're very cool and they have their place on the battlefield, but tanks and artillery are still pretty much the queen of the battle. And a gear just can't stand up to taking a shot in the face from a tank gun. So if it exhausts all of your damage points, excess may go to the target right behind it. So, and that is something to be considered too. Actually, it's in first edition AD&D, Bob Jester. So a fighter of second level or higher gets their equivalent level in attacks against less than one hit die creatures, kobolds, giant rats, goblins, what have you. So you take something like, say, a 10th level ranger who's already getting 2 attacks a round, kicks open a door, wades into a room full of kobolds. He's going to get 10 attacks, 20 attacks, 10 attacks, 20 attacks. Every time he hits, and remember, he gets his level added to his bonus in damage versus giantkin. That ranger alone will kill every goblin or kobold in that room. Assuming that there's 20 in there, he may wipe them all out in the first round. If they're within melee range, if they bunch up on him, nope. Chic. Yeah, they can all go down. But anyway, those are just some of the fun nuances of AD&D that I love. So, but anyway, so tomorrow night, there are opportunities. I love it. Tomorrow night, we're going to be doing a deep dive. I don't know if it'll be B3 or Greyhawk. I'm still up in the air over it. We will decide on it, and I will let you guys know. Friday night, the night after tomorrow night, we're going to be playing Gamma World for entertainment. I know that for sure. So I hope you guys will come back and stick around, and hopefully it won't be Choppy McChopface on the video front. I still don't know what's going on with that, but I'll get it sorted between now and then. I want to super thank you to Gonzalo Lira's Bar Tab for his super chat. Thank you very much, Gonzalo. I appreciate that. And as for the rest of you guys, well, I don't know if you're aware, but none of us have as many hit dice as an owlbear does. So going home tonight, be very careful about those. Peace. Good night. I love you all.
Have you seen my owlbear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owlbear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle way off course? Naked as a toad all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.